Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. Today we have Dave Fotheringham on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to
You
be
know,
here.
I think I made you a little nervous. I don't ever tell anybody that I'm going to record them, and they show up. That look on your face was priceless. So hopefully we can get you through this and make you look. No, we'll make you look good, Dave.
It's all good.
Yeah. So the story, the show is about successful entrepreneurs, inspiring stories, people that are maybe looking to get in the business, and maybe some things that maybe you went through. I mean, because I don't think anybody grew up. And if I remember correctly, you had a background in financial service and property and casualty. Is that right?
Yes.
And then, maybe like, how did you even get into the insurance industry? Because nobody ever says, I want to grow up and be an insurance agent. And then you hear the word insurance agent, everybody sticks their fingers in their ears and goes, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. I got,
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
I had a good friend that was in the insurance business and introduced me to it.
Okay.
So he got me into the business in 1972.
Oh, wow.
So started then and worked with him and worked for him, and then decided I want to get out on my own. I wanted to do things my way, and so I did. I left him and did that.
When did you do your own thing, or how long were you with him? So you had a mentor, the guy that helped you, a guy that said, hey, here's the business, and then like, hey, you know what, I think I'm gonna do this on my own, because there isn't like a school you go to.
Yeah, it was around 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Then I left him and started my own business.
And then you did your own deal.
Right. Started in the property casualty insurance business. And took on a partner after a few years, and him and I ran that business. We had 5,000 clients.
Wow, that's a big book.
That's a big book of business,
especially in the P&C world.
Yeah, and then we ended up selling that.
Okay.
And then I got bored and decided to try the securities business. And quite frankly, I didn't enjoy that business because I didn't like being responsible for people's money.
I'm with you. I tried it with people's money, or I like, no way.
Right.
That was not my deal. I didn't have the stomach for it, nor less. No way.
Yeah. And then I saw an ad. I can't remember if it was on the radio or where I saw it, about Kellogg Insurance and what Ron was doing.
Yeah.
Ron Kellogg.
Probably a mailer I sent out, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably a mailer you sent out.
Yeah.
And came up and met with Ron and Jeremy Lindquist, who is the GA.
The manager, yeah.
Who works with you.
Yeah.
And love this business. It's more like the property casualty business that I really like to begin with, where people need the insurance. They just need somebody good that can talk to and help them understand what's going on. I find that's a big need with Medicare. I was, of course, I was older when I got started, but I was in the business 2 years before I felt Medicare business before I felt comfortable with it.
I hear that a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a lot to learn, a lot, and it's not just about how Medicare works. It's about the getting people into Medicare. How do you get them in? All the things when they've been working, all the different stories that come along with that.
Transitions,
just all the different rules.
So you decided, hey, you had a successful business. You sell it, you get a little bored. I'm going to try some securities. Yeah, didn't there? And then you get into Medicare. So now you help people on Medicare. And the beauty of this business is our mentor said, part-time, full-time, or sometime. It doesn't matter. And there's all walks of life. Some people they do it full-time. Some people just do it for, stay busy or support a golf habit. And you're right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's my golf habit.
There you go.
And I enjoy it because I can set my time.
That's right.
Exactly. I can do what I want when I want and have the time to do what I want when I want. So.
Well, I think that's enough about insurance business. A lot of people know about the insurance business on the show. If you don't mind, I want to talk about you. You retired from the military, right? National Guard, and kind of what you did there. And I know you talked to me about when the Olympics were around and some things, the challenges, but you dealt with some pretty important stuff.
Yeah, so I was in artillery.
Okay.
And at both the real high level and low level, and it was a lot of fun to work with that. And I'm not going into a lot of detail on that, but as I was getting close to retirement, it was the Olympics here in Utah. And the general that I'd worked with for several years has invited me to come and work with him with the Olympics. They formed what they call the Joint Task Force here in Utah. And the Joint Task Force, our headquarters was in Norfolk, Virginia, which was a joint command. And joint means it involves all services. So, and then we went from there to the Pentagon. And our initial plan was to bring in 1,500 troops to Utah to
Mhm.
help with the security. I was back briefing at the Pentagon on 9/10,
Mm.
just before the towers went down. And on the day of 9/11, I was in Atlanta briefing what they call the FORCECOM command for the Army.
Mhm.
And they control all the personnel and equipment that goes out to the Army.
Like the logistics.
All the logistics
Uh-huh.
of doing that for personnel and for all the equipment. And we were briefing them on what we would need for the Olympics. And that's when we saw the towers being hit. And the jet secretaries, that was a 4-star command. And his secretary talked to me and she said, your mission just changed, didn't it? And I said, yes. And so
As you're watching this unfold.
as we're watching this unfold, so she says, let me see what I can do for you, getting you back home. And called me that night and said, be at the airport. And so they had a Air Force Learjet waiting there for us. And we flew back and we said to the pilot, who's up in the air besides us? And he says, you're it. So we flew into Salt Lake City and
To get you home.
no flight plan, they just brought us home, and we ended up bringing 5,000 soldiers in. And I was one of the operations officers, and we had to find places for them to live.
Wow.
Met with the Secret Service, the FBI, all the venue commanders, local law enforcement, in coordinating the security for each venue site.
Mm-hmm.
All the dogs, for example, that were brought in through us, through the military, and secured all the sites just before they started.
Well, we're going to have that again here in Utah, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. That's
You
gonna be
know,
fun.
people ask me, because I was a subcontractor for the Olympics where I helped with all of the security camera feeds, the live feeds, and TVs for security. So I got involved and briefed with a lot of folks and had to get background security checked. And it was amazing how many, because after 9/11, they thought about canceling it, right? And then there was so much brought in to make sure that it was secure. And I mean, then we ended up running extra feeds to certain locations and undisclosed of, people could be monitored and watched. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
We gotta here. We need to get power and TV over here. And I never even thought that was even a thing. But yeah, we did some pretty wild stuff. One of the craziest ones is we had to trench a line, Park City Mountain Resort, all the way through the snow, as deep as it was, just to get a line because there was nowhere else to get it. Where we had to get where we had to get it, right?
Yeah,
you couldn't go up, you couldn't go down, and we did it in the middle of the night, and then we had to fill it all in, and we're like, well, we'll pick it up in the summer.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
People don't. I mean, I was amazed.
Yeah, it was a great experience for me, so I enjoyed that.
So your mission changed from 1,500 to 5,000.
Right.
Wow.
Having to house those, we just got warehouses and put bunks in them and fed them and moved them, and yeah, it was fun.
But is it right? There was a National Guard. Is that what are they like the?
So yes, it was a National Guard.
But you retired from there.
Yeah, I was activated for those 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Was put on active duty.
Well, so that was a 2-year contract deal.
Yeah, so we prepared for 2 years for that.
Wow. And you just had a boss that said, hey, do you want to do this? Or said it picked you, I guess. I don't know how it works.
He asked me. There was about 30 people involved from all services, from the Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force. Were all involved in that unit with me.
Yeah. It's so needed. By the way, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So over the years of your life, what's been some challenges in running your own business that you've seen?
Probably the biggest challenge we had in the property casualty business is just keeping good people. But
employees, you mean?
Yeah, keeping good employees was probably our biggest challenge. But I don't know if I really had a bunch of challenges, other than just work hard.
Yeah, well, I've always, my mentor, I said you could always work out of any problem with hard work.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you're stressed or something's not working, you work through it, right?
Right.
But you did mention a little bit about Medicare. The first 2 years were the hardest. Do you feel like now that it's been a number of years, you've got a pretty good grasp on that industry? And where do you see that going?
Where do I see the industry going?
No, you're like with Medicare. You're like, okay, the first 2 years were the hardest. I feel like I had a grasp on things. Now that you've sold a bit, like where do you feel that's going in the next 5 years with?
So I see that growing, but my goal is not to grow it fast.
Okay.
Where I'm retired, I still want to enjoy my life now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to get a few things going where I get referrals coming to. So I'm working with businesses,
Sure.
referral sources,
Yeah.
and letting them bring me the business. If I write, and this is not a big goal for me, but if I write 4 apps a month,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
There you go.
4 turning 65s a month, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
My goal is to get to, I'm sitting at almost 200 clients now.
Fantastic.
My goal is to get to 300 to 400 clients.
Yeah.
And then just take care of my business after that. I really don't need the income.
Yeah.
But I want something to do, and the extra income's fun.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the extra income makes it easier. So that's my goal, is just to be steady.
Yeah.
AAP is not a big thing for me. You probably don't want to hear that.
No, everybody, you know me, it doesn't matter to me. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. That's the way it is. It's a win-win. And I'd rather know, because I know I can't push somebody out of their comfort zone.
Right.
Like, they have to make a decision. But if somebody came to me and said, Ty, I'm good with 1 a month. Okay, I want to do everything in my power to help you write 1 a month.
Yeah.
If you want to write 20 a month, I want to do everything in my power.
Yeah. I just want to have steady growth.
Yeah.
And then I want to service my clients well. I want to do what's right for them.
What's amazing is I had no idea you had 200 clients. Just because I don't know. I know, because you own the book, right? You own the book, and I don't get to see that, but that's awesome. And you're like, okay, well, 400 or 500 is a sweet spot. That's where, and you're getting referrals from the people that you've written and helped, and and you've been able to help navigate.
Right. And I've done the RSSA.
Oh, what's that? The people that don't know.
Registered Social Security Advisor.
Okay.
And I've got that, and I just got it recently. So I'm looking at integrating that into what I do, and
Okay.
working with those referral partners, offering this as a service for them and their clients. And so that's where I think I want to grow. I did initially start out by working in stores during AAP.
Yeah, retail.
And that worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
That worked really well, but it tied up my time. Where I'm retired, it tied up my time during the Christmas time. So that's something I don't want to do anymore, but it's still a great thing to do.
Isn't that amazing? You can pick and choose, right?
Right.
But here's the thing: you did the hard work.
Yeah.
You didn't give up. When you got knocked down, you're like, hey, I'm still going to keep doing this. I still want, and it doesn't have to be an elaborate, dream. You're like so outrageous, but you're like, hey, the money's nice. I'm sure if you want to travel, you're like, oh, here, I got money. Here we go.
Yep. Exactly.
And I'm sure you got a plan for retirement too. So you're like, hey, this is the steady stuff, right? Or whatever you call it. This is the gravy on top.
This is the gravy on top. Yep.
Wow. What would you tell besides the first 2 years, what would you tell somebody that may be looking to get in the insurance business, whether it be P&C, home and auto, which is what that is, life, annuities? What would you tell them? Because in the beginning,
there's so many different ways to enter the business. But you can get into somebody that brings you in, and that's a good way to do it, to get somebody that can help you.
Like a mentor
and financial support too.
Uh-huh.
This business, when you start it, if you start from zero, it's just going to take a little while before you got an income that you can rely on.
Correct.
And so you've got to be able to get through that, however you decide to do it. So if you go with somebody, they can maybe help you with that income and grow you that way. Mm-hmm. Or you can start if you're on your own, if you're in a place to do that. In the P&C business, they all have different things. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but you've got to be able to produce. You've got to be of value to those insurance companies.
Sure.
And so you've got to figure out how do I get that value? How do I get big enough that it makes them interesting to start helping me more? Does that make sense?
I don't think that's just in the P&C world. That was me when I started out. I'm like, how do I get recognized by these big insurance carriers where I can get help? Right. You know what they tell me? Go out and write first.
Right.
And then when you show that you're committed, you show that you're willing to do the work, you're putting apps on the books, then we'll come in and help. Because I'm sure there's people kicking down the door saying, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, but not willing to do the work.
Exactly.
So I had to do that long and hard. The interesting thing about that is, looking back, some of the opportunities that agents have now entering the business because of what I did and the relationships I formed, I can get them into an opportunity a little quicker.
Right.
And it wasn't always that way.
That's why I'm saying start with somebody else. Don't always start with yourself.
Yeah, it was not. I had a mentor, but it was times were different, right? And today's day and age, it's so different. But it was one of those things I was like, but find somebody so get a mentor. Then after you get a mentor, then what would you tell them?
Work hard.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got to work hard. You got to figure out how the system works. You got to figure out the best way to market.
Yes.
There's all those.
And the way you want to market. You said retail. You're like, I'm not doing retail anymore. I'm not doing financial service products anymore. I'm going to do X.
Right. And then you just work it. And if you work it, they'll come.
What does that show? A field of dreams where
Yeah.
they build it, they will come.
Yeah.
That is so true. If I could get every person that I talk to that wants to get in the business and say, listen, if you just did 20 contacts a day,
right?
20 contacts a day, and you worked 50 weeks out of the year, right? And you equate, okay, that's how many contacts per week. I mean, that's over 2,400 contacts in a year. 1 year, you do that again. The next year is another 2,400. You can't tell me you can't find business.
Oh, it'll come.
There's
right? No question, it'll come.
Yeah. It's like your 200 clients. How many referrals do you think you get off those 200 clients?
I get about 30 referrals a year.
The 1%, right? Let's call it 1%.
Right.
So 240 contacts, you should be able to get 240 clients out of that. I mean, and it's a ratio that you could live by, but you got to do the work.
And that's the advantage of Kellogg too, I think, is that they've got the systems and procedures in place.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. If you just work them. Everything you need to do to keep track of your clients, keep in contact with them, show them different products. It's just all there, so it makes it a lot easier.
I love it when someone comes to me and they're like, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm saying, well, hold on a minute. Let's do the basic and then get you making some dollars. And if you want to go and push that and use all of your time and money and resources, go ahead. But let's start with the basics,
right.
the foundation of, how do I even talk to people? How do I overcome objections?
Right.
How do I get leads? Or, some of these, because you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And we have a lot of resources, and agents are like, well, how come I wasn't told about the opportunity? I'm like, do you not read your emails? I mean, it's like, well, you want to talk to me? Come talk to me. Let's come up with a game plan. Let's say, okay, you want to write 4 a month. How are we going to do it? You want to do referral partners. How many referral partners are you going to have to attack? How many people are you going to have to talk to? You went and got an extra certification to say, hey, listen, I'm credentialed. I'm the authority in this space.
Right.
I can help people. And guess what? It's a service. You're not getting paid for that. And in fact, it costs you money, right?
Right. Costs me money.
But it costs you money. It costs time. And that's life. I mean, you're going to either pay to learn, meaning you're giving somebody money, you're writing a check to somebody, or you're spending the time learning. You choose.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of knowledge that comes with this. You got to spend the time to learn it. You got to spend the time to understand what's happening, to learn the products, learn what's going to be best for your clients. Yeah. And if you serve your clients the best, then they're going to stay with you and they're going to refer business to you. That's
right. And it's the same with this new adventures. I'm excited we should do a follow-up at a year from now and see how it went, where you're at 2 years from now, because that's fascinating. And there's so many people listen to this show. And by the way, thank you for all of you. Thank you, all of you, for all of you that listen to this show. And I mean, I walk in the grocery store and someone says, hey, I listened to your podcast show on XYZ. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea. Somebody that I wouldn't even think that would be listening. But it's been very rewarding, like for you, getting people to hear their stories. And there's somebody here on the show that needs to hear it. And the things that you say, and it's fascinating. And it's just that outreach. I never thought I'd be like this, but it is.
Yeah. The number one reason I'm into this business is the freedom it gives me.
Yes.
And so.
And where else, when you look at how much time you spend and equate that to dollars, I bet your hourly rate's pretty good.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Very good.
Your hourly rate, right? So the risk reward, but it did have risks.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories today and your life experiences. Anything else you'd like to leave with the audience? Any thoughts that like, hey, wait a minute, if I could say one thing and leave with them?
I sold 2 policies yesterday, just both off referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Both calls were calls to me. And the second one, after I talked to him, said, I want to thank you for that. He says, I am so excited about where I'm at right now with my insurance. He was so pleased. I've actually had other clients hang up and say, I love you.
Wow.
So because of the relationships that we've had.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about this business is the relationships that come and the friends that you make.
Yeah. I've said many times that people will spend their last dollar to stay alive one more day.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have insurance that they can use when crap hits the fan, and it's not always roses. I get those calls and someone says, "Hey, I got this copay. Do I have to pay it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember we talked about that."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'll pay it." You know, it's just that reassurance that they have somebody, and it doesn't cost money to use an agent.
Right.
It's so many, whether you go online, over the phone, or through the mail, somebody is getting paid a commission. It doesn't change your rates to use an agent. There's a lot of misconceptions.
Right.
And I would rather be able to call Dave and say, Dave, hey, I have this. Can you help me? And that's the beauty of our business. It's a service business first.
It is.
And it's so rewarding.
Yep, it is. Very rewarding.
As always, share, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.